tap the little blue button. The blue button that says, got it, just tap that. All right, here we go. Everybody, welcome to Train Your Way Up the Bridge. This is put on by the OT Association, which sponsors Indie Bridge on Facebook and a number of other projects that promote LRH tech and standard tech. And let's see here. If you would like to talk to us more after our show, after our presentation here, here's our contact information. Indiebridge, one word, .org. That's our website where you can find upcoming events and news about what the OT Association is doing. Our email is info@indiebridge.org, and you can ask us questions anytime. Just send an email. We also have Indie Bridge on Facebook. If you do Facebook, you can email us or friend an OTA member to join. Now, who are these mysterious OTA members? Well, there's a few of us, actually. First of all, we have Trey Lotz, OT8, Class 9, L's auditor. And he's been auditing for many, many years, tens of thousands of hours of auditing. So he's a good person to ask about tech things. Randy Smith, OT7, Class 9, auditor and case supervisor. In fact, he's my case supervisor on Solonauts. Wonderful, wonderful CS. And Z Snyder isn't here today, OT8, Class 5 grad. Jerry Tunadal, OT8, Class 9, auditor and trainer. And with Ingrid Hoffman, OT8, and she is a Dianetic auditor. Greg Cohen, OT8, Class 2. And then there's me. I'm OT6. I'm the MC and the chair of the OT Association, which all it means is that I chase cats and work on details every day. So, but yeah, I'm a Class 2 auditor. So let's continue here. Unfortunately, Jerry and Zeke can't be with us today, and neither can Greg, but we're just gonna roll right on. Okay, the first quote I have is from LRH. What is Scientology doing? And I like this quote. I found a few quotes that we don't normally see, and I wanted to share them with you. He says, and I believe the freedom of the material which we know and understand is guaranteed only by lightness of organization, a maximum of people, good training, and good, reliable, sound relay of information. That's from Anatomy of the Spirit of Man Congress, lecture number 15, What is Scientology Doing? And that's from 6th of June, 1955. And right now, what we're going to do is have Randy Smith talk to us about the two sides of the grade chart. There's processing or auditing, and there's training. And Randy, I'd like you to go ahead and just take it away and let me know when you need me to switch slides.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. Yeah, so you're seeing the top of the grade chart, and the grade chart is a series of levels. We're going to see different parts of it here, but it's divided, like Mary says, into two sides. The left side is training, the right side is processing or auditing. And so this is a chart that Hubbard developed around 1964, 65, when he wanted to make a route that everybody could follow. And because he had done a lot of different research on a lot of different kinds of processes up to that point, some of them were very advanced, some of them were reached down to the lowest levels. And so he developed a chart which had the levels on it that a person could follow step by step. And this would more or less guarantee that if they followed this chart, they could make it all the way to OT. And that was the genius of this grade chart. And so that's the basic layout of it. We can go to the next slide if you like, Mary. Good. And now one of the
Oh,
one of the first courses that the person can do, and this is really below the main levels of the grade chart, is the Hubbard Qualified Scientologist course, also called HQS. A lot of us did this as one of our first courses, and it basically, like it says, no prerequisites. The purpose is to train a student on the basics of Scientology and their application. And it takes 3 to 4 weeks full time, or but I remember when I did a version of this course in 1970. I had done. Sometimes there's even a smaller course before this, which is called the communication course, and that consists largely of doing the TR training routines. And I think everybody attending here knows what those are, but um, the HQS course is very frequently a very early course, and it covers, it's kind of like a nice overview of Scientology basics. Um, the version of the HQS that I use has some bulletins about how to study, discoveries Ron made about effective study technology at the very beginning. Just 3 or 4 of these main bullets, like how to look up misunderstood words, how to make sure you have adequate mass when you're studying, or you don't skip a gradient. And these kind of things, with a few examples, are gone over, which is very useful when you're starting your study of Scientology, of course. And then it covers some things like the tone scale, the emotional tone scale, and then it has you do various exercises, like one is called obnosis, where you go out and you I see Tony is smiling that. You remember that, Tony? Yeah. Uh, you go out and you survey some people, and you ask some people questions like, "What's the most obvious thing about me?" And while they're answering, you're supposed to observe what tone level they're in. And then a next gradient of that drill is you get to practice trying to match their tone, or ask them questions above or below their tone and so forth. It's very useful to learn about the tone scale and how to recognize the tone levels and how to utilize the tone scale in dealing with people. So that's a nice part of the HQS course. And then most versions of the course also include some auditing, like some of the objective processes, like the CCHs. CCH stands for Control, Communication, and Havingness. And those are some of the objective processes. And objective processes are where you just have the person move around the room and touch things. Now you have them look at things. And I see Tony's laughing about that too. He remembers doing hours and hours of those. And yeah, several other people remember those. And these processes, they're easy to do. They don't require that you use an e-meter or anything, except maybe to verify at the end of the process. And they help bring a person into present time, away from their past problems. And that is the primary purpose of the objective processes. So you get to experience auditing those and receiving those as part of the HQS course. And then there's a part called self-analysis, where you use the self-analysis book and you audit each other using the lists to improve your recall ability. And so there's really a lot in this HQS course, and it really gives you a great overview. It covers some other things like problems of work and so forth, but it's a great way to kind of start your training in Scientology. And the theme today is, of course, what's so useful about training to go up the bridge? Well, a lot of us will attest to the fact that at least 50% of the gains in Scientology come from training or the results of training, as well as receiving the auditing. And there are a lot of anecdotes one could say about that, but let's go to the next slide. Yes.
I thought
So,
I'd include this because when you start training, you really are going on an adventure and you discover so much.
yes.
These basics, even in the HQS, even just the COM course TRs and HQS give you so much of the basic information, and you keep using it throughout your training life. But I thought this quote was great. The Adventure of Scientology from Ability Magazine. And of course, this is L. Ron Hubbard. The trained Scientologist is the greatest adventurer of all, for he adventures into many, many minds. The expertly processed pre-clear is the deepest adventurer of all, for he sees more and faces more in any given instant. But trained or not, or processed or not, the Scientologist is an adventurer. And
Yes.
I've always had that sense of adventure, haven't you? It's yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
But
Yes.
here's the grade chart.
Thank you, Mary.
You're
So
welcome.
here's another section of that grade chart, and this is now showing from more or less the bottom of the chart and the first 5 or 6 levels there on the left and the right. You'll see, let's just look at the right side a little bit, which is the processing side, and it shows one of the first levels most people get in auditing is life repair. And then many people will do the purification rundown. And then they do the objectives. I was just talking about the objective processing. And then ARC straight wire and grade 0, and then on up those grades. Now, the left side of the bridge is where it tells you, well, okay, what do you need to be trained as an auditor in order to deliver the auditing on the right? So there's a little notation there about on that on the left, and it gives a description of, and we have this whole chart available for everybody. And Mary, are this chart's available on our Facebook page, or is there another link somewhere where they can get the whole chart image? Mary? Okay, she's getting to there. You're muted, Mary. But anyway, she's gonna.
I lost my mute button.
Okay.
Okay.
You got
Yeah.
my question, right?
Technology.
You got
Yeah.
my question, right? So
Yeah. But yes, we can get this great chart. We can actually just email it to everybody afterwards. How's that?
yeah, that sounds
And
great. Yeah.
it's on Indie Bridge,
It's on
on
the web page.
Facebook.
It's on the web page,
And
indiebridge.org. Yeah.
okay, and the Facebook page, Indie Bridge, it's available there as well.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me see if I
Good.
can get my buttons back in order here.
Yes.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. Great. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
continuing on. So you see on the left side, there are levels of auditor training, and they tell you, okay, what level can you deliver when you get trained to each level? And this, most of this training on the left side is what we call the academy level training. And this is routinely done in Scientology orgs, in academies, but now it's being delivered remotely. I deliver all of these levels remotely to anyone, anywhere in the world. I send you the course pack. We have wonderful course packs of materials that have been made up in large PDF files, and I email you the PDF file, and then you study a few issues, and then we have a couple Zoom calls per week, and I will give you a checkout on those issues as you go through the course. You can even do clay demonstrations remotely. We have a system where you do a whole clay demonstration with the little clay men and so forth, showing the various principles. And then you take still photographs of the demo, as if a supervisor were hovering around it, looking at different angles. And then you email me those photos, and I can check out your clay demo from those photos that way. And we also
Right.
do, yeah, we also do
Oh,
demos. Question, Mary?
oh, I was just going to say we have a few trainers who, for various reasons, weren't able to be with us today, who also offer online training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Michael Solihovic and the Clearing Academy, Lucia Briseño, and I believe she does Course and TRs.
Uh-huh.
And
Mm-hmm.
she is currently in Mexico and has plans to train in the US soon.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
Mhm. And let's see, Jerry Tunadal, an OTA member, is also does a little online training.
That's right.
Randy Randy trained Jerry up to class 10 or yeah, class 9, excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So it can all be done remotely. It's wonderful. Just
that's
what
right.
Randy can do.
Yes. And a lot of you guys, I trained you on the solo auditor course or the solo knots course or various things
Yes.
too. I do a lot of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It worked beautifully.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's that part of the grade chart that you're seeing there. It goes up through class 5 auditor. And so there, a class 5 auditor is able to audit all the grades 0 through 4 plus New Era Dianetics, as it shows there. And so that's what we would call the lower part of the bridge up to clear. Most people will go clear on New Era Dianetics. And that's basically probably enough on that part of the grade chart, you know. Oh, in the middle section between the two sides, you see a vertical arrow, and it's labeled awareness characteristics. So these are levels of awareness that Hubbard identified that exist at each level of the bridge. And for example, down at the very bottom, somebody is, you know, in very low levels of awareness and so forth, but they come up to like demand for improvement around the area of life impaired. So that means the individual is actually demanding improvement of himself and the world around him. And that is the best position to be in to receive life repair and start moving up the bridge. And then levels of awareness, for example, at level 0, around there is recognition and so forth. So those are an interesting study to look at those awareness levels, and you kind of see how they correspond to the level of processing on the grade chart. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Does clearing cancel the need for training? So, but
But
go ahead,
go ahead.
Mary.
Go. Oh, all right. I'll go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I thought at class 5 level, I thought it bore mentioning that, on NED you can go clear, and or even doing other items you can go clear. But does clearing cancel the need for training? Ron says, but how about getting clear and staying clear forever? The auditor alone with his data well learned could manage that. Remember, you were clear once, trillions of years ago. Why didn't you stay that way? Because the traps were well designed and you had no anatomy of traps. That's from Ability Magazine, issue 70, 1958, March, I believe. And the title was, Does Clearing Cancel the Need for Training?
Yes.
So even if you get clear, training is still really a good idea. And gee, I'm big on the quotes today. Sorry, Randy.
That's okay.
uh,
Go ahead.
the plain truth of it is, if anybody's really going to make it to OT, he has to know how to audit. That's the long and short of it. You wouldn't put yourself and your case in the hands of an untrained or poorly trained auditor, would you? So you owe yourself the best auditor in the world on solo, and that is you. So get trained. And of course, solo and OT are the next steps after clear. That's why I put that there.
Yeah, very good.
And oh, I thought of this yesterday. Train your way up to OT. Train your
Mm-hmm.
way to OT. Should have been the alternative title for this
Mm-hmm.
talk.
Cool.
Okay,
Cool.
here we go. Back to you, Randy.
Great. Thank you. Very good quote. Because now we're looking at the upper part of the grade chart from New Era Dianetics Completion. You see that at the lower right. And clear or a well and happy human being. That'll be the result of New Era Dianetics. And this is where there's a little optional route, you might say, on the grade chart. A person, if they go clear on Dianetics, they can go right on to the solo auditor course. And then from then on, they will be able to solo audit most of the levels above that. Now, if they don't go clear on New Era Dianetics, then they do what we call the alternate clear route, where they get trained on as a solo auditor, but then they do a couple other levels, such as grade 5A, grade 5, grade 5A, grade 6. I won't go into detail on what those are. You can read about them there. And the clearing course, and then they will achieve clear as by doing the clearing course on that route. And then they will go on to OT1 and so forth. But probably most people, just as a rough guess, probably 80% or more people that go up the bridge will go clear on NED, or by the time they've gotten to NED. And then they will just go right on to the solo auditor course. And this is one I kind of specialize in, and several of us deliver this. But like Mary said in her previous quote from Hubbard, you want to have the best auditor you can for yourself, of course, because you're going to be responsible for your own case, your own case progress, and so you want to do that solo auditor training very well. We have very good materials for training you as a solo auditor. And you'll find it's a wonderful adventure to start putting yourself on the meter and see your own reads, and you see your own floating needles, and you see how they correspond with your own mental state and so forth. And you go, aha, and you see the needle fall off the dial to the right, and then it goes into a floating needle. And what a thrill when you see that for the first time, you know. I see Tony is chuckling about that. Yay. He's been seeing a lot of those lately. He's having great wins on his OT6 course, which is a review of the solo auditor course. But we'll hear about that more later. And so that's a look at this higher level of the bridge, and then it shows levels of training on the left, and then on the right, the deliver up through OT3, what's shown there. And there are levels above that. Do we have the level above that on the chart, Mary? Yes. There is the upper level of the chart, and it shows training on the left. And now we deliver up through class 9 auditor and case supervisor. There had been in the church they trained people up through class 12, but in the independent field we have up through class 9, so forth. But that is very adequate to deliver all the levels you see on the right, which is the solo knots and the knots levels, and those are all described on this chart in one line: knots and solo knots. Now there's a lot contained in that one line. There's typically like a couple of years worth of work in there. The first part of that is audited knots, where you're audited by a class 9 auditor, and then you do the OT6 course, and I don't know if that's shown here, OT6. That's the original OT6. That's not our OT6. The one you're circling, that's the
Ah, I
original.
see. Okay.
Yeah, those are the original OT levels. Anyway, when you finish audited knots, you do what we call the solo knots course. And that's in three parts. You do a review of solo auditing basics, and then you get all the technology having to do with NED for OTs. That's what NOTS stands for. New Aerodynetics for OTs. And then you start practicing that, and you practice all the little tools and techniques that Hubbard discovered about how to audit the NOTS case. And then when you finish OT6, you get launched. You get launched into OT7, the solo knots. And generally that goes for a year or two. And it's a very thorough handling of the knots case, solo auditing. You're still supervised by a case supervisor. You send your sessions in every few days. Somebody is helping you, advising you, giving you references. And that culminates in a wonderful state when have achieved the level of OT7. And several of you have done that, like Ingrid, for example. She just gave us a smile remembering that. And and then you're eligible to do what we call the original OT levels. And that's what's shown here from OT 4, 5, 6, and 7, original OT levels. Now, those, I just want to talk a little bit about those to give you a little preview. Most of the grade chart up to this point has been what we call negative gain, where you're getting rid of bad stuff. You're getting rid of the reactive mind, or you're getting rid of valences, or you're getting rid of negative considerations. You're getting rid of charged areas. You're you're finding areas of charge and you're getting rid of them, getting rid of them, getting rid of them, which is wonderful. And you get a wonderful freeing up of your beingness and abilities that way. But now when you reach this level after OT7 and you do these original OT levels, these are ones that the church stopped delivering by about 1982. They no longer delivered them anymore. But we've unearthed them here in the independent field. And several of you have done these. Ingrid, I know, has done them. And they now involve positive gain. In other words, instead of trying to get rid of bad stuff, he developed processes that say, let's see what you can do. Can you stretch yourself a little bit and do some of this? Can you stretch yourself and do some of that? Can you do this? Can you do that? And a lot of these have to do with exteriorization and different things you can do while exterior. And they are quite amazing, quite wonderful. They do it on a gradient, but they are designed to help develop your perception and your reach as a thetan, separate from the body. These are the kind of things that you first hear about and you think, wow, this is amazing. This is almost like science fiction, but it's incredible the kind of things you can do with this. Um, so those are the original OT levels, and I recommend those highly. And you can solo audit most of those as well. And then we have OT8 and above. And now I haven't done OT8 yet. I'm not trained on it. Trey, would you like to talk a little bit about OT8? You have to unmute yourself. I don't know if you can unmute Trey or whatever.
We're doing it. We're doing
Okay.
it. Mhm.
Back when I was I did the Class 8 course in 1971, and there was a bulletin on there on the Class 8 course called Why Thetans Mock Up. It was a 1969 HCOB, and its distribution up on the left side of the bulletin was OT8, and I'd never seen that before, and there was no OT8. So anyway, I read it and I thought it was very interesting, and I stuck it away in my file of things. And so then when I went up the bridge, got to OT8 and went to the ship and did OT8. There was a bulletin called OT8, the final step. This is an LRH bulletin, and this is what we studied and what we audited on OT8. And in the instructions, it says the third step of OT8 is as follows, and it gives you what you do to audit yourself on OT8 on the ship. So I said, well, what are the first two steps of OT8? And people went, we don't know, It could be, maybe it's a CSing thing. So nobody knew what that was. But anyway, I had tremendous wins on the OT8 step that I did. It was just totally blown out. It was my biggest win ever. I was like more detached from the body after that session than I ever had been. So then that was 1988. Now, fast forward to 2007, when I parted ways with the organization, I connected up with Pierre, who had been a Class 12 at FLAG. He was a #1 ELS auditor. And so anyway, he was talking to me about OT8, and he said, well, the first two steps of OT8 are the HCOB Why Thetans mock up. And I pulled it out and I read it, and sure enough, there was like two steps there. Had to do with time, and it had to do with place. And then the third step had to do with identity, the one we did on the ship. But the first two steps were missing. And so we ran those first two steps, and it expanded my OT8 wins. So I had a bunch of people on my lines at the time who had done OT8 in the church. So I just got them in, and I did the first two steps and rehabbed the third step. And without fail, their understanding and their wins just expanded from doing the actual full OT8 that LRH envisioned. People have speculated that the church only delivered the third part because they didn't really have an OT9, and they were going to deliver the first two steps of OT8 as OT9. This is technically brilliant. You deliver the third step before the first and second step. So anyway, I did great at OT8 on the ship, but a lot of people, they had big wins, they keyed out, and then 6 months later they keyed in or had accidents or something. That was like, but that's the reason why, because the level was hugely effective, but you were missing those two underlying steps. So anybody that I can talk into any OT8s that I can talk into coming over and doing the first two steps, I always do that because I know what a difference it'll make. And I've also audited some people from scratch on OT8. I've got one of my guys from Taiwan right now, finished solo knots. He's on OT8 and having huge wins every session. His sessions are 2 minutes, like 3 minutes. One question and 2 minutes of cognitions and a floating TA. And I mean, not everybody has that level of win, but everybody has big wins. And so it was something that I just thought was something that really is one of the big benefits of being in the independent field, is you're not subjected to the arbitrary technical misunderstandings and lack of wisdom and outright sabotage that, you know, you would be exposed to in the church. You were able to do a lot. The bridge that you're able to do in the independent field is a lot cleaner. And between Randy and I, we've got 18, 19, 20 people up onto and through their various OT levels. The group in Taiwan alone, we've got 7 people on solo knots. Well, 6 now that one finished. And that has blown the lid off their group too. They've had highest evers the last 2 years in a row. And it makes such a huge difference. So anyway, that's the true story of OT8. And you'll find a lot of misinformation on the internet. Just the things that people have just made up or forged or misunderstood, or anyway, what I just told you, that's the straight story.
Very
Thank
good.
you, Trey.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Oh gosh, we've gone from one end of training and processing to the other, or from the bottom to the top here. But I kind of wanted to back up for a moment. And I wanted to mention too, one of the things you can do even before, even if you don't have training yet, is you can pick up the original Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health, and learn how to do book 1 auditing. And one of our OTA members, Ingrid, specializes in that. She does a lot of book 1 auditing. You don't need a meter. You just need to be able to follow a series of simple instructions. And Ingrid, I was wondering if you could talk about the training, or what one needs to do to just do even basic book 1 auditing.
Ingrid is muted. Do you need to unmute yourself, Ingrid? Or?
Do you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes,
Yeah.
there we go.
Okay, great. It doesn't take much to start auditing book 1, the original Dianetics auditing by the book Dianetics, Modern Science of Mental Health. I started in Scientology in '79, and I was, from the first moment on, I was very much interested in getting rid of my engrams. Actually, the first moment I studied about what an engram is, I said, yes, I want to get rid of all of them. So I was never very much interested in not so much, I must admit, at that time, in doing the HQS course or something like that. It was all about, let's get rid of the reactive mind. And of course, I also studied the book, the Dianetics book. And then I had done some other auditing before, actually, but then I myself went on to book 1 auditing, to this original audit, Dianetics auditing, because I was so much focused on getting rid of the engrams. And then I said, okay, they said to me, and actually in the organization, they said, well, why don't you go parallel to this? Why don't you go on a Dianetics workshop or a seminar? So I said, okay, I do that. So I studied you study some things on this seminar from the Dianetics book, and then you have lots of drills, and then you start auditing. And it's really a thing of, or you do, they use at that time, they used to deliver it, at what time the student could come for training into the org, like in the night or whenever. But you can also do it like at the seminar for 1 weekend. And at this seminar, you already start auditing. And I've seen people having, I've seen PCs having great wins being audited by new Dianetics auditors, like I was at that time. And I've also seen auditors being so happy about having done this, having audited somebody for the first time, having given him the chance to have his win, whatever. And, as we talked about before, you get 50% of the training, you get 50% of the wins, you get as an auditor, right? From the training and as an auditor. So I've seen these happy auditors, that never audited before. And I've seen the happy PCs. Actually, later on, I also delivered the seminars in the Munich org. That's why I've seen lots of them actually. Yeah, so I started auditing just with these tools, and I was just having amazing wins. And it also speeded up my own auditing, and it made me even later on. I must say when I started the OT levels, OT 1 to 3, I still wasn't. I hadn't done any levels yet. I hadn't studied the levels yet. But I had this basic thing. I had given about 2,000 hours of book one, or Dianetics auditing. I knew very well anything about the reactive mind. I knew what it looks like when it comes up in the session, and you can see, and you audit without. It's a great start to start as an auditor. You don't even have to use an emitter. You just, you do it without the emitter, and you get better and better by in perceiving what's happening on the PC side, and you get so anyway, you get this just amazing experience with dealing with a reactive mind, right? Which helps you on one hand a lot, and on the other hand, of course, it helps the PC, and it helps you anytime ever from that on, in any moment of your life, because you deal with a lot of people sometimes you have to deal with a lot of reactive mind. So you have this knowledge, and it's just it's helped me a lot, I must say. Oh yeah, when I started my OT levels, when I started solo auditing, I realized how helpful this was, how great it was that I had this experience with giving all these sessions, even though I hadn't done the levels yet. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And I wish, Ingrid, I wish I had included the quote. I don't have it here, and I don't want to give verbal data, but there is a quote. I'm going to find it and probably email it out with our with something else I was supposed to say. Oh, the copy of this indie grade chart. But it was about how Dianetics takes a while to do, how Scientology processes are a lot faster, but Dianetics is also great practice for doing Scientology processing. I promise I will send the source and the quote on that too. But yeah, Dianetics came first. It's the basis for everything else we do here. So, hey, thank you. Thank you. Well, let's see here. What have I got next for slides? Here's another reason to audit. Here's another reason to audit. The genus of Dianetics and Scientology. What is important is how much service you can give the world, and how much you can get done, and how much better you can make things. These are important things. These are all that are important. A bank account never measured the worth of a man. His ability to help measured his worth, and that is all. A bank account can assist one to help, but where it ceases to do that, it becomes useless. So
Very
helping,
good. Yes.
creating an effect is good too. Oh, and yes, we've popped a link to a 30-minute YouTube video of L. Ron Hubbard talking about the grade chart. It's from 1965, and it's in the chat. All you have to do is copy that and click on the link, and of course you can access it. But there's the URL right there on the bottom left for you. That's a screenshot of Ron talking in that particular video too. Okay, I think it's time to unmute everybody, and we'll take questions and answers either from the chat or verbally, and we can chit chat about this.
And so you want them to raise their hand if they want to speak, or?
Oh, whatever they feel comfortable with. Some people aren't comfortable talking in front of a big group if
Yeah.
they know they'll be recorded, but you can always pop it into chat.
Mhm.
IT will tell me the question and we'll take it from there. Let's see, do we have any other people who train others to audit? Do we have any other people here who do that? I'd be curious to know. We can even share wins if you like, regarding training. I remember doing the HQS course. One of my requirements on my check sheet was to go out and actually do assists on people.
Sure.
And they even suggested an emergency room. But I actually sobered someone up at a party who was way out of control. Literally watched this woman go from stumbling and falling to sitting and coherently talking to someone within about 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was amazing. Another woman right before a big ceremony was just sick as anything, and I gave her a touch assist. And she relaxed. She felt sleepy and tired, but her symptoms entirely went away for the cold
Oh, that's
that she
another
had.
thing.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
remarkable. Go
Another
ahead,
thing,
Randy.
HQS course covers basic assists as well. You can learn basic things like the touch assist or the contact assist on the HQS course, how to help somebody when they have an extreme situation. That's right.
Mhm.
And Leah Invernizzi has a question in the chat.
Oh, sure. Let me have a look there.
She says, why Independent Church of Scientology? Leah, do you want to ask more about that? I don't quite understand what you mean by that.
Yeah, I think we need a little clarification, Leah. Do you want to put that in the chat? It's like, do you mean, why are we not in the Church of Scientology? Which, yeah.
Maybe because
Why?
it means why there are two, like independent plus church, why it's connected, or someone said it like this.
Oh, I think she means on the grade chart, it says the First Independent Church of Scientology. That's the actual title of the grade chart. I don't
Oh,
have an answer why that was named that. Randy, do you?
You're wondering why we use the word church again? Is that the question?
Yes.
Oh,
That's the question. Sorry.
okay.
That's the question. Why again church? Because 1 second, I don't find the microphone. Okay, because
we can hear you. Good.
We hear you. Yes.
Perfect. Because I think that's my opinion that the word church is connected to a religion, of course, but is also quite stimulative for some people. What do you think?
Yeah, I understand that. Well, here's my understanding of this. Scientology organization became a church when Hubbard did research in the early 50s. When it was just Dianetics, there was nothing called the church. But then he discovered that we're actually dealing with a spiritual being, and it started to enter the realm of spiritual beings, not just bodies and brains. So that was the birth of Scientology, the study of the spirit in relation to the body. So that's my understanding of why it became a church at that point, because it was actually dealing with the spirit.
Yes. I know that, but why again Church of Scientology, even if it's independent? I mean, it
Yes.
cannot be independent Scientology without the word church.
Yeah, I understand. You're wondering because the word church can be restimulative. There are many bad associations with other churches and so forth. But yeah, Trey, do you want to chime in on this?
Well, there was an additional reason why LRH formed Scientology into a church is because in the early 50s, the California legislation was worried about Scientology auditors, like Dianetic auditors and people that were doing basic auditing. And they tried to pass a law that said that for anybody to apply Scientology technology, they had to have a degree in psychology, a university degree in psychology. And so that would have put the entire function and organization of Scientology directly under state control. So that was why in California in the early 50s, 54, 55, LRH incorporated it as a church, because then you could be independent of government control. And that was the corporate advantage to being a church. The true advantage of being a church is that we are a church, and even if we have no place to, we don't go any place. There's no church in the independent field, except I think probably different organizations may be incorporated that way. I'm not sure, but there's no overall basket case for churches. We're just the independent field. And so maybe that would be misleading to say the independent church of Scientology, because there is no such thing.
But the designation of church continues to help keep us from government control of our practitioners. Yeah.
That's true too. And the group, the First Independent Church of Scientology, chose that title. And we happen to have presented their grade chart here, and we wanted to give that group credit. But as the OTA and as Indy Bridge and as independents in general, we don't generally identify ourselves as being a church.
Right.
Yes.
And I still really hold by the original reason that the Church of Scientology is indeed a church. It deals with the spirit of man, and their relationship to a creator or to a God is unique to each person. So I respect that original reason. Personally, that's just me.
Yes,
Is
yes.
that-
My question was not about the original church. I mean, the one of Skevich or the one of Ron, is because on the bridge you show us there is independent Church of Scientology. That's all. So I ask why again.
Yes.
Again, church, again the church. Okay, well, fine. Anyway, that's why.
Okay, very
Yes.
good. There's another
All
question.
right.
Another question from Carla Zamudio, Mary.
Yes, I saw that. It's great. Carla would like to know, what is the prerequisite for doing the L's? And she's asking for a friend.
Trey, you're the old master of the L's. You answer that one.
Yes.
Well, there's two possible qualifications. One is a grade 4 expanded can do the L's, and the other one is clear. So so you can do that at the lower level of the bridge. You can do the L's before the OT levels. I think L11 and L12 would be good to do before the OT levels. It would kind of be better to do L10 after the OT levels, because L10 could be quite a long level. And if you're doing L10 prior to doing your OT levels, it could extend the time a fair amount. So, after between OT1 and OT3, you can't do them. After OT3, after OT4, after OT5, after OT7 solo knots, after OT8, you can do it at any time, and where there's time between a level. The only time you can't do it is below grade 4 expanded and between OT1 and 3.
Very good.
All right, thank you. We've got another question, and Arminta would like to ask a verbal question.
Can you hear me?
Hi,
Yeah.
Sarah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Hi, Randy. So I have a question about children. So we have a daughter who is just over 1 year old, and we want to start obviously incorporating a lot of these ideas into her life and how we raise her. And for right now, we're sort of just trying to figure out some very young child appropriate gradients as far as that's concerned. But I didn't know if you had more thoughts on, like, when can children, and if so, when can they begin any of this training side or anything like that? I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Could I just answer as a
Go
parent?
ahead, Mary. Yeah, you've
Um,
been a parent of several kids.
Yeah, at least 2 that I know of. No, I have two children who are now adults, but I'll tell you, as a Scientologist, my children were born in just the immediate post independent movement split from a certain organization. And what we did was we used our calm cycle and TRs. Those are very important and very handy as a parent, and using that calm cycle, acknowledging, listening really well. This goes a long way to giving a child a real stable foundation in communication, and as well as being recognized, being heard, which is extremely important. I see a lot of parents today just treating their kids like they're going to automatically get life, or they're not important, or they don't remember, or they don't really understand anything. And so it's almost like they're not real. We always spoke to our children, not as adults, but without baby talk. We always used our calm cycle, acknowledged them, answered questions. I remember giving assists to my children when they fell and scraped something, cracked their head on the door, doing locationals here and there. As they grew older, they were less reliant on that. And to this day, my children have not been audited formally in the church. So, and this is by their choice. We never pushed it on them. It's always available. But, I think the basics, calm cycle, TRs, treating them, acknowledging them as human beings from day one, was probably the best thing we could have done for them. And as far as formal auditing of children, I'm going to leave that to Trey and Randy. And if Jerry were here, I think he's worked with people as young as 3. So if he could answer that.
Well, I'm even
But
curious,
but he's not here.
not just the
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm also curious, not just about her being audited, but her learning the actual formal training of being an auditor herself. Like, when would it be appropriate to begin that? Is there a minimum age or anything like that?
Nancy, you raised your hand a little bit. Do you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to, as a parent, wanted to add to what Mary said about assists. I would really read all the different assists, like if they have a temperature, locationals, and you can keep them really light and make them a game. And, when you get them to walk around and touch things, they engage with it. And I think it's an important thing to switch it. Let them be the auditor. Let them, if you're giving them a vocational, for example, try to turn it around and let them give you the vocational. Children love to play, and if you use these kind of assists, games for them, it puts them in control of their environment and they have tools they can use. And if it's a very natural thing that you do this in your home all the time, they just integrate it into themselves, and you'll find them doing this with other children. You know, like if they fall down, you get them to do a contact assist on something. I've watched my children do this with other children, you know, like when they get a quote boo-boo, you know.
Yeah.
So it's almost like at that level, just by being a good example and using it all the time and making it be something that's part of your lifestyle, your children absorb it. They're like little sponges, and they'll take it with them.
I like that a lot.
Yes, and the HQS course is maybe the best place to get that basic data on how to do assists of various kinds. And that's a great idea. And then as far as when to train and how to get your child started on training, I would recommend you teach them the study technology. Now there's one resource which is called the Small Common Words book. This is part of a course called the Key to Life course. And you can actually, this is actually a picture book that defines all the small common words in the English language. It was developed on the directions by L. Ron Hubbard to bypass the whole problem of misunderstood words. You just sit down and you just start looking at cartoons that define words like it, the, to, and, in, out. And there are a series of cartoons that define each one of those words. Now, this book is best gone through on a twinned basis, where one person sits across from the other, and you start going through the book, and you just point to the first set of cartoons, look at them, and then you ask the person, give me an example of that. And you go through the book, you spend, half an hour a day on this, and it's kind of a thick book. But when you get through, you have cleared all the small common words in the English language. And you start to have wins, and you start to learn how to recognize these words whenever you read them somewhere and how they're used. Now, that's an example of something. I have a copy of that book I can send you that you could do with, I think, a children who's, 5, 6 years old or something. You could start going through that with them. And this would give them a tremendous head start in learning anything.
Good.
Yeah. There was a comment in chat about using Ruth Minchell's Miracles for Breakfast book. And as she's a parent and uses LRH technology in that book. It's a great book if you want to know more about raising or processing kids.
Yeah, Randy did send that to us, and John was just looking at it yesterday, actually.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that has some good stuff in it. Great.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions yeah, Nancy.
Yeah, I stuck this in the chat too, but I wasn't familiar with that grade chart that you showed, and maybe I missed it, but was there a grade 4 listed?
We might have missed it. We divided the chart into several sections on the different screenshots.
Okay.
Well, let me back up here real quick. Whoops, wrong way. Let's back up here. Class 4. Yeah, class 4 auditor and grade
that ends
3.
at grade 3, the way it's shown.
Yeah.
It
And then
does.
I
It
was
does.
like, oh, are they not doing that anymore?
No.
No.
It's just the way that the chart is formatted and the way we divided it up. See.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's all there.
There's a little slice of it. But Mary, you were going to send this to everybody, correct?
And there's
Yes, I'll
also
send
a
a copy of it.
there's
Okay.
also a copy of this on the web page, indiebridge.org. There's a copy of the full
Right.
chart you can look at.
some-
indiebridge.org.
Yeah, on the screen right now, it says on the very bottom right, moving out of fixed conditions, that would be grade 4. And I don't know why that came out like it did. I thought I got everything, but yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like one of the lines has been just cut in half. Thanks
Yeah.
for bringing that up, though. I appreciate that.
Okay,